In 2009, General Motors filed for bankruptcy protection and required a $50 billion government bailout. That same year, Harley-Davidson did not file for bankruptcy. They lost money. They laid off workers. Their sales were down significantly from 2008, but they came out the other side with the brand intact, the dealer network functioning, and the specific thing that has defined the company since 1903, the identity, completely undamaged. GM had 77 consecutive years as the largest automaker on the planet. They had manufacturing scale, capital, engineering talent, and political relationships that no motorcycle company could match. And they went bankrupt. Harley-Davidson has been 6 weeks from bankruptcy in 1982, has watched their quality reputation collapse under AMF ownership, has lost 45% of their dealer network over the past decade, has seen sales drop 57% from their 2008 peak, and has watched their core demographic age out of the market while younger riders choose Japanese and European machines. And they are still here. That is not an accident. It is not luck. It is a specific set of mechanisms that Harley operates on that are unlike anything any other motorcycle company or almost any other consumer product company has ever successfully built and maintained. I'm Jimmy. This is the full documented story of what Harley actually does that no competitor has been able to replicate. Not what the marketing says, what the business actually is. To understand what Harley actually is today, you have to understand what it almost became in 1981. American Machine and Foundry purchased Harley-Davidson in 1969. AMF was a conglomerate whose primary expertise was bowling equipment. They had capital. They had production management experience. They had the specific corporate logic that said, motorcycle demand is growing. Harley has brand equity. We can scale this. What AMF could not do was maintain quality at scale on a product whose value came entirely from what the machine felt like when you rode it. They pushed production from 16,000 units annually to 75,000. Quality control did not keep pace. Documentation from the era suggests as many as a third of machines leaving the factory had significant issues requiring dealer intervention before delivery. The workers who had built Harley's machines for decades went on a 100-day strike because they understood that the product being pushed off the line was not the product their reputation was built on. The nicknames riders gave AMF-era Harleys, Hardly Drivable and Hogley Ferguson, were not jokes. They were accurate descriptions. Harley's market share in the super heavyweight category fell from 80% in 1969 to approximately 15% by 1981. The Japanese manufacturers, Honda, Kawasaki, Yamaha, Suzuki, had moved in with machines that were faster, more reliable, and cheaper. The competitive case for buying an AMF Harley had nearly disappeared. On February 26, 1981, 13 Harley-Davidson executives borrowed $80 million and bought the company back from AMF. Vaughn Beals led the group. Willie G. Davidson, the grandson of company co-founder William A. Davidson, Harley's design chief, was among them. By the end of 1982, they were 6 weeks from bankruptcy. This is the moment that separates the Harley story from every other motorcycle brand story. Because what the 13 men who bought the company back decided to do with those 6 weeks and the years that followed was not to compete on engineering. It was not to compete on price. It was not to compete on performance metrics. It was to build something that could not be competed against. In 1983, Harley-Davidson founded the Harley Owners Group. 33 original members. By 1985, it had 60,000. By 1990, 200,000. By 2000, 1 million. The HOG is the most successful owner community in the history of any consumer product, not the most successful motorcycle owner community. The most successful owner community in the history of any consumer product, full stop. 1 million paying members organized around the ownership of one brand's machines. But the HOG is consistently misunderstood in business analyses. It is described as a marketing program, a loyalty scheme, a community-building initiative. These descriptions are accurate but insufficient. What the HOG actually is, the mechanism that made it produce those numbers, is something considerably more specific. The HOG gave Harley's most committed customers something no marketing program can manufacture and no competitor can purchase: a reason to organize their social life around the brand. A HOG member does not just buy a motorcycle. They join a chapter. The chapter meets. It organizes rides. It attends rallies. It raises money for charity. It creates the specific social infrastructure around which a certain kind of person organizes their weekends, their friendships, and their identity. The comment with 19 likes on the most watched Harley analysis video makes this point from a 40-year rider's perspective. Jeep has done exactly what Harley did. It became a social organizing principle. He watches his millennial peers go to Jeep for the exact same reasons they would have gone to Harley 20 years ago. And the difference is that Jeep works in the rain. That observation is the most important competitive intelligence in the Harley story that nobody in the company's management is publicly addressing. The HOG model produced loyalty by making the brand a social organizing principle. When another product category can do the same thing without weather dependency, it pulls the same demographic. But the HOG's original innovation, the recognition that the way to make your customers permanent was to give them a community they would lose if they switched brands, remains the most successful example of its kind in manufacturing history. Honda tried to replicate it with the Honda Riders Club. Kawasaki had their own loyalty programs. None produced a community culture that made riders organize their social lives around the brand. The HOG worked because Harley's machines, their weight, their sound, their specific character, created a shared physical experience that formed the foundation of genuine community. You cannot build a community around a machine that disappears into traffic. You can build one around a machine that announces its presence from 2 blocks away. In 1994, Harley-Davidson applied to trademark the sound of the Harley V-twin engine. The application described it as the distinctive sounds produced by the applicant's motorcycle engines. The sound in question, the potato-potato-potato rhythm produced by the 45-degree V-twin firing pattern, where each cylinder fires not at equal intervals, but at 315 and 405 degrees of crankshaft rotation, is acoustically distinctive in a way that no other engine configuration produces naturally. Harley pursued the trademark application for 6 years. Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Ducati, and others filed opposition. They argued credibly that the sound was a function of a common engine configuration rather than a distinctive brand identifier. In 2000, Harley withdrew the application. They never got the trademark, but the attempt tells you something essential about the company's self-understanding. Harley was trying to own the sound because the sound is the product, not the motorcycle. The sound, the specific acoustic experience of a Harley-Davidson V-twin at idle, at low revs, at speed on a highway. The sound that has entered American cultural consciousness through 40 years of film and television placement, through the specific acoustics of Main Street at Sturgis, through the Saturday morning rides that every person in the HOG has been part of. That sound is not a feature. It is the brand, and the brand is not the machines. The brand is the experience of being in the presence of those machines, including the experience of being on one, but also including the experience of watching one pass, hearing one start from across a parking lot, being in a crowd of them at a rally. The comment with 45 likes on the competing video captures the criticism this produces. Lifestyle brands fail when people lose interest in that particular lifestyle. Many younger people just laugh at that accountant wearing leathers, attempting to look like an outlaw. That is an accurate description of one segment's reaction to the Harley identity. It is also, for the segment that does not laugh, exactly why they buy. The specific identity, the outlaw adjacent, the freedom adjacent, the American working class independence adjacent, is simultaneously the brand's greatest strength and its most significant demographic vulnerability. The people who want that identity are aging. The people who are 30 today did not grow up with Marlon Brando and Easy Rider as their cultural reference points. They grew up with a different set of freedom symbols, most of them not Harley-shaped. The Harley brand premium, the price you pay above what the engineering alone would command, is visible and documentable. Section 5 of the 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible has the full comparison of what Harley machines cost versus what Japanese machines with comparable or superior engineering cost in the 2026 used and new markets. That premium is a deliberate brand decision, not an engineering one. Understanding what you are paying for and what you are not paying for when you buy a Harley is in Section 5. Section 6 has the dealer script specific to Harley dealer interactions, the financing conversation, the add-on conversation, and the specific negotiating position that the current 57% sales decline from 2008 has created for buyers in 2026. Link in the description. Was $97, now $9. The comment with 101 likes on the most watched Harley business analysis video says something that the video itself does not address. You know what else saved Harley? Government protectionism in the form of 50% tariffs on Japanese motorcycles. No real incentive to improve quality or value when you have that kind of protection. That comment is historically accurate, and the story behind it is more complicated than either the critics or the defenders usually tell it. In early 1983, Von Beals flew to Washington and asked the Reagan administration for a tariff on imported Japanese motorcycles over 700 cc. Reagan granted it. A 45% duty, rising to 49.4% in the first year, was imposed specifically on Japanese heavyweight motorcycles. The tariff was scheduled to decrease annually and expire in 1988. The Reagan administration granted this request, despite Reagan being the most ideologically committed free market president in modern American history. The argument Beals made, and it is worth understanding precisely, was not that Harley needed permanent protection. It was that Harley needed 5 specific years to implement quality improvements and product development that would make them genuinely competitive, not propped up forever. 5 years. In 1987, a year before the tariff was scheduled to expire, Harley asked the Reagan administration to lift it early. That specific act, voluntarily surrendering protection before it expired, is the moment that separated the Harley recovery from a standard protectionism story. They had asked for time. They used the time. They gave back the protection. The Evo engine had arrived in 1984. The hog was growing. The quality had improved measurably. They no longer needed the tariff. But the comment with 101 likes is right about what the tariff cost in a different sense. The 5 years of protected pricing reduced the urgency of the specific quality and engineering improvements the competitive environment should have been demanding at a faster rate. A competitor who cannot take market share because the government has made their products artificially expensive is not a competitor who is being accurately evaluated. Harley's management in the mid-1980s was learning quality discipline from necessity, from the bankruptcy-adjacent crisis of 1982, but was also operating in a market where the competitive pressure on quality was being artificially moderated. The 40-year rider in the comments section who bought a 1982 Yamaha new in 1984, a 2-year-old machine, because the tariff had restricted import quantities so severely that no new Yamaha could arrive on his dealer floor until one left, tells you the specific market effect. A generation of riders was steered toward Harley, not because Harley was better, but because the government had made the alternative harder to buy. Some of those riders became Harley loyalists. Some of them, the man on his seventh Japanese motorcycle with no interest in ever owning a Harley, were lost to the brand permanently by the experience of being steered rather than chosen. In 1969, when AMF purchased Harley-Davidson, William G. Davidson was 36 years old and had been working as the company's styling director since 1963. He stayed through the AMF years. He was part of the 1981 buyout group, and the specific design decisions he made after the buyout, while Von Beals was flying to Washington and the engineers were developing the Evo engine, are the decisions that rebuilt Harley's visual identity at the moment the company was most vulnerable. Willie G's approach to design was documented in a specific practice. He attended rallies, not to be photographed, not for the publicity, to watch what riders were doing with their machines, what they were modifying, which directions the custom culture was moving, what the community that actually rode Harleys was building in their garages when the factory was not watching. The FX Superglide in 1971, the first factory custom, a machine that combined the Sportster front end with the FLH touring chassis, was designed by Willie G after he had spent time watching what California custom builders were doing with those exact components. He did not invent the combination. He saw that riders were building it and made it available from the factory at a price the working-class rider could access. The shovelhead-based FXS lowrider in 1977, the wide glide in 1980, the Softail in 1984, the frame that hid the rear suspension to recreate the hardtail visual aesthetic while delivering modern suspension performance. Every one of these machines came from the same practice, watching what the people who actually rode Harleys were doing with them. This is the Toyota principle of genchi genbutsu. Go and see for yourself, applied to motorcycle design. The Toyota version was Ichiro Suzuki driving American highways for months before designing the Lexus LS400. The Harley version was Willie G at Sturgis, at Daytona, at the rallies, looking at machines and talking to riders. What Willie G understood that Harley's corporate management periodically forgets is this: Harley's customers are not buyers, they are participants. The person who buys a Harley is buying membership in a culture that the factory did not create. The factory serves that culture. The culture does not serve the factory. Every time Harley management has acted as if the culture serves the factory, the Evel Knievel cologne, the wine cooler, the baby clothes with the Harley logo, the touchscreen infotainment system that nobody in the hog asked for, the culture has pushed back. The comment with 12 likes from the man who sold his Road Glide because of the touchscreen he never wanted is the most recent documented version of that pushback. Willie G retired in 2012. The specific design philosophy he embodied has not been consistently replicated by his successors. The brand is attempting to navigate a generational transition without the person who understood most clearly what the brand's visual language meant and where it came from. The 2026 used Harley market is producing buying opportunities that did not exist 5 years ago, precisely because of a 57% decline from the 2008 peak sales and the aging demographic selling machines they can no longer ride. Section 1 of the 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible documents the market conditions, the specific segments where used prices have dropped most significantly in 2025 and 2026. Section 5 has the Harley Model Year Guide, the specific evolution engine years to target, the Milwaukee 8 variants to avoid, and the inspection points specific to used Harley purchases that independent mechanics consistently flag. Link in the description. Was $97, now $9. Sales peaked in 2006 at approximately 350,000 units. By 2025, unit sales were approximately 150,000. That is a 57% decline from peak. The number gets cited in every Harley decline narrative, and it is accurate and also misleading. The misleading part is the comparison point. 2006 was a specific market anomaly. the baby boomer cohort, at peak earning age and peak Harley demographic alignment, producing a once-in-the-brand's history confluence of factors that created the illusion of a permanently sustainable volume. Harley's management treated 350,000 as the new floor. It was a ceiling. The number that matters more is margin. Harley's gross profit margin on the machines they sell has historically been higher than any competitor in their category. The machine that a BMW, Honda, or Kawasaki sells for a comparable price produces less margin for the manufacturer than the equivalent Harley, because the Harley buyer is paying for brand equity that the competitor's buyer is not paying for. A company that sells 150,000 units with a 35% gross margin is in a fundamentally different business from a company that sells 300,000 units with a 20% gross margin. The revenue numbers can look similar while the businesses are structurally different. The crisis Harley faces is not that it is selling fewer machines. It is that the premium the brand commands is dependent on the cultural authority the brand carries, and the cultural authority the brand carries is dependent on the demographic that assigns it that authority, remaining active and relevant. The man in his early 70s who developed a bad back and sold all 3 of his Harleys, documented in the comments section at 15 likes, is the Harley business model problem stated in one sentence. The product is physically demanding in ways that aging bodies eventually cannot accommodate. The demographic that built the culture is aging out, and the demographic that would need to replace them has grown up in a world where the cultural symbols Harley represents carry less weight than they did for the generation that built them. The specific mechanism Harley built, the hog, the rallies, the sound, the identity, works extraordinarily well on the people it works on. The question the company has not answered is whether it can work on a new set of people without destroying the thing that made it work on the old ones.